Hello, football thinking fans. Welcome to the Total Football Analysis Champions League and Europa League podcast. Today, we have joined forces across our Serie A, EPL, and La Liga teams to bring you a special podcast edition of this unusual final stage of the European competitions. My name is Daniel Leproc, and let me introduce you to our team members, beginning with professional player and La Liga podcast host, Alex Comzia. Hello, Alex.
How you doing, Daniele? What a collab here.
What an all-star team. And welcome to EPL podcast host, Chris Mumford. Hey, Chris.
How are you?
Pretty good. To better understand the tactical side of these games, we have the pleasure to be joined by football analyst Steve Coleman. Hello, Steve.
Good morning, Daniele. How are you?
Pretty good. And also football analyst Scott Martin. Hello, Scott.
Hey, Daniele. How's it going?
Pretty good. Listen, guys, we have 3 Italian teams, 3 Spanish teams, and 2 English teams still in Champions League. The second legs of round of 16 will be played Friday, August 7th, and Saturday, August 8th. Let's begin with a big match between Man City and Real Madrid. They're starting on a 2-1 aggregate for the citizens. But Scott, correct me if I'm wrong. Real Madrid won't be able to count on their captain, center back, and goal scorer, Sergio Ramos. Is that right?
Unfortunately, that is correct. So Sergio Ramos picked up the red card in the previous match, so he will have to watch from the stands. So big task for Eder Militao. He's got to join Rafael Varane in the starting lineup. And it's definitely a big task for him. He'll likely play on that right-hand side. So he'll have to provide cover for Carvajal as he tries to defend against Sterling. But yeah, all to do for Real Madrid. Down 2-1. They had that disastrous last 15 minutes in the first leg at home. So now they've got to go to Manchester. So they've got to take on the citizens there. Fortunately for Madrid, no fans in the stands. So, they at least won't have the fans building or building behind them to support them. But definitely all to do. So, with City, I don't think we're going to see too much of a departure from their club philosophy. I think Pep will be very aggressive. He will want to put this one to bed early. So he's got to be careful, though. So this is a Real Madrid side that is very effective when they can counterattack. Even when they've lost the ball, they have a very strong rest defense. So if City does try to progress too quickly, maybe doesn't prioritize their rest defense as they look to progress into the attacking half of the pitch, that could come back to haunt them. So fortunately for Real Madrid, Eden Hazard should be back in the lineup. It's looking like that top 3 should be Hazard, Benzema, and Asensio on the right. So they're at least much healthier than they were in that first leg. So, overall, I think they've got a mountain to climb in this one, but they've at least got, for the most part, the right players on the pitch. Sergio Ramos's absence, that's a big one. But otherwise, I think the squad is ready, especially given the way they finished up the season.
Yeah, it's certainly a different Real Madrid than the ones that played the first leg back in February. Do you expect Man City to approach the game differently from a tactical standpoint, knowing that, like you said, Hazard is back and that Real Madrid really seems to have found their chemistry up top?
So I think Walker will be a little more conservative on that right-hand side. He'll linger behind to make sure that there is no easy entry to Hazard. But this is Pep Guardiola's team. So in the past, you look at all of his Bayern Munich teams, Barcelona sides, they want to demoralize the opponent. They want to make sure that Real Madrid doesn't have a chance to get on the ball, doesn't have a chance to put a goal behind them and build some momentum. So they want to take the air out of this game with lots of possession, with using their individual qualities higher up the pitch, especially with likely Mahrez on the right and then Sterling on the left. So I do think you're going to see a very proactive approach from Guardiola's side. I just can't see them changing the approach, changing the philosophy for one matchup, even if it is against Real Madrid.
Yeah, I'd say my take on it is that Man City is going to absolutely smother the offensive half or the defensive half of Real Madrid. You take Sergio Ramos, the Darth Vader of professional football, out, whose distribution capability is out of this world, and you go with the high jam that Man City does. I think Man City is just going to roll over Real Madrid here. I see the outside attacks. It's going to be revert to long ball, in my opinion. Real Madrid, they're going to try to take it out of the back, and there's no way. They're going to have to go long. Courtois is having the best season he's ever had. Ederson's having a decent season, but what I love about Ederson is he's going to keep your back line honest, because he can put it on a person's chest from 70 yards out. And I really feel like, there's some defensive liabilities with respect to Man City. That's well documented. But I just don't know if Real Madrid's going to be able to get the ball up there enough times. And Scott, you laid it out beautifully. They may get two or three opportunities, and whether they're real or half chances on a potential fast break, that's all they're going to see. Otherwise, they're going to be packed in their back half, and maybe that's what Real Madrid's going to be satisfied with, right? But I feel like you take out Ramos, and all bets are off at this point.
Well, I mean, you could also say that could benefit Real Madrid. So with all the space behind that City back line, especially once Vinicius Jr. gets into the match, using his electric pace to get behind that defense, that could work out to Real Madrid's favor. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing to consider is Militao is actually probably a better defender in the low block than Ramos. Mm-hmm. So he's got a better heading percentage. He wins far more of his aerial duels than Ramos. The guy's 6'4", just great length to block shots. So if they are going to defend in the low block, that's realistically not the worst option to have out there.
I completely agree with that. I think the way to go here is the low block because of what you just said about Militao. But also, I think the game is won here for Madrid if they have an absolute amazing performance from their midfield, and Casemiro in particular. He's number one in La Liga in interceptions, and against a Man City team that is so good in possession. If you have that low block and then you have Casemiro breaking it up in the middle where, you don't have to necessarily leave Militao exposed because he doesn't have that stepping ability that Ramos has, then they can counter with whoever they play, if it's Hazard or Vinicius, and then Benzema, who's in top form right now. But make no mistake, in my opinion, this is still Man City's win. I'm not saying for sure, but I think Madrid's throwing everything at this. You hear that Ramos is actually traveling out with the team for moral support. Like, they are throwing everything at this. You cannot count out Madrid. This is their cup. This is their league, the Champions League.
Yeah, not this year. It's not. I think it's. I think it's a little bit worrying for Madrid and Zidane that Pep has had so long to prepare for this game. So normally in a normal season, they would have obviously a Saturday game. He'd have one eye on the Wednesday night preparing for it, but he'd have little time to prepare, perhaps on the training pitch for what he's about to see. But they've had nearly 2.5, 3 weeks now to prepare for this game. And as we know about Pep, he will have made sure he hasn't left any stone unturned. I think the biggest things that you can look for here are the way he uses his two deep line midfielders, if he uses one, or whether he uses two in a double pivot, and how he uses his fullbacks to deal with the build-up phase, and also how he deals with the counter and the rest defence, like Scott talked about earlier, whether he's going to use Walker as more of a third centre-back as opposed to a right-back in the transitional phase there. And whether he's gonna use Gundogan or Rodri to drop into the line to make three, and then that enables him to get Sterling inside, for example, where he does some of his best work so far this season. And I think he'll certainly have a plan, and I think they'll have too much for Real Madrid in this one. Real Madrid have got to come and chase the game a little bit, and I think Man City will not only pass them off the pitch, but also create too much for them in the final third.
Is it too much time for Pep Guardiola to think about this? I mean, he has had issues with his players in the past, with his tinkering. So does he overdo it? I mean, I think that's another real concern for Manchester City. And Zidane's, I think his side's going to be very calm, very relaxed, and they'll look for their opportunities.
I just think they have nothing to lose at this point. And I still, again, say that this is a big advantage for City. But when you have nothing to lose, your coach is Zidane, you just won La Liga, and the adversity is there. You don't have Ramos. Like, it's all against them. And as a player, that's kind of appealing. You know, we got to overcome this massive mountain. And you never know. One goal early could change the whole thing. We can't just assume that. Oh, to be fair, Man City have not got it done in the Champions League in the past years, and you know Guardiola is going to have them absolutely flying. But this could change on a dime. And my question, Scott, just to round this out, is who do you think plays with Casemiro and Kroos in the middle?
I do think it's Modric. He was very lively after the restart. He's also better in progression, and I do think they'll need that quality from that right-sided midfielder. So typically when Valverde plays, he'll help out defensively, but the initiative is to get him a little bit higher up the pitch where they can utilize his athleticism. But I think if they do go with Hazard and Asensio on the wings, they want to get those two guys isolated. So you don't necessarily need Valverde up there playing with them, but you do need someone who can get the ball to them in the right spots at the right time, and Modric is that guy.
So here's my take. 3-1 Man City. It's going to be a tidal wave of light blue. Have you guys not been watching Man City in the last 3 or 4 weeks? They look like they are just full of piss and vinegar. And I get the sense that Real Madrid has been a bit on cruise control in the last couple of weeks. And Real Madrid's got to show up to a stadium that it doesn't have fans, but it doesn't feel like home. And for Man City, this is just another day in the office. So my prediction is 3-1 Man City.
Chris, based on the history of Man City in Champions League, I fancy the chances for Real Madrid. If you guys remember the defensive disasters from last year by Man City against Tottenham, I'm afraid that's going to represent itself. So I'm going to go with a 1-2. So a win by Real Madrid, and hopefully this drags the game to extra time and even more show. What do you guys think about it?
I'm all for it. Get a stacks. I don't care.
There is another matchup. It's a crossover between Serie A and La Liga. It's the second leg between Barca and Napoli. The first leg finished 1-1 at São Paulo with goals by Dries Mertens and Antoine Griezmann. Alex, I know you have something to say about Messi and Barcelona. How much pressure does Barca have on their back, knowing that they just lost the league?
It's a lot of pressure, of course, but it's, as a club, as a team, we've all been, seeing the news coming out of Barcelona. They're in a chaotic spot right now, and they're arguably have the most transfer rumors around them in Europe. There's rumors that they have to sell off 6 to 7 guys to make some room for Lautaro from Inter. There's rumors that they want Neymar back. How is that going to happen? Umtiti, Griezmann, Dembele, Araujo are all injured. That means you only have Piqué and Langley as center backs, and if one of them goes down, you're playing one of the academy players. Artur has refused to play, which is interesting. Firpo's on the transfer list. Vidal and Busquets in particular is huge here, but Vidal potentially too against Napoli are out for suspension. So if I'm Napoli, I'm licking my lips because this Barca team is vulnerable. But, Messi's came out at the end of the Liga and said, and really, shots were fired at the rest of the team. So I'm wondering how they're going to respond, to this Napoli squad. There's rumors that Insigne is injured. Is that true, Steve? If that's the case, that could be massive for Barcelona, because I think if he plays, he's going to have a field day with Semedo. I think he's going to turn him inside and out and have one of those curlers. First leg Napoli was very good, and I think they should have won the match. Griezmann got a decent goal, but I think tactically Napoli line up well against Barcelona. It depends if there's that three back, how Semedo and Alba are going to pin back the wide players. I would personally play Ansu Fati in this game because he will play as a wide winger and force Napoli to kind of be a little more pinned back instead of playing two strikers up top, and they're more central, which plays, into my opinion, the favor of a Napoli side that has three center backs. But yeah, I'm licking my lips if I was Napoli right now, but you can never count out a team that has Lionel Messi, as much of a cliche.
Alex, is that because we should expect to see Messi just underneath Suarez and Griezmann?
No, Griezmann is rumors that he's not 100%. So if he is in the squad, he could potentially play. But if it's me, I'm playing Fati. I'm playing Fati because it's dragging him out wide. I'm not sure, Steve. I'm sure who's playing in the what's the projected lineup? Is there going to be a three in the back and with the two wing backs? That might pin back the wing back so they can't really have success out wide. Napoli has a lot of success out wide. I'm not sure.
No, I think Gattuso will play with four, as he has done for most of the season. I think you'll see a similar setup defensively to the way they defended recently, with the wide players tracking the fullbacks like they did against Milan, for example. We spoke quite at length on the Serie A podcast about a goal they conceded where the wide players didn't either stop the cross or track Hernandez in at the back post, if you remember. And I think you'll find something similar to that in this game. I don't think Gattuso will go too far away from what's been successful for them. And that's mainly to do with what, like you said, about the wide areas and the domination that they will try and get in the wide areas. The higher up the pitch they can get, maybe Di Lorenzo and Mario Rui there, that enables them to get Insigne inside and whoever plays on the opposite side to him inside and be more creative. And I think they can cause Barcelona some real problems. Like you say, that Barcelona have got some real issues availability-wise. And I think the game for Napoli here is a free hit. They've never made it further than this in the Champions League. They're up against Barcelona. Perhaps people don't expect them to win. And it's a free hit for them. And Gattuso will relish being the underdog in this one for sure.
Yeah, Steve, and I expect Napoli to go to the Camp Nou and try to propose football, try to keep the ball. I don't see them sitting low. That's just not in the nature of Napoli. How many times have we mentioned that Napoli have the highest ball possession percentage in Serie A? So I think they're gonna go there and try to do their own game and not trying to change their identity just because they're facing Barcelona. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. I think we've spoken before about they're one of the few teams in Serie A who have a way and stick with it. Now, there's obviously parameters within that philosophy that he'll change given the opposition, but the reality is they're going to try and manage the ball and keep the ball as well as they normally do. They've got two of the best passers in Serie A in their side. One of them's obviously the left back, as we've spoken about, and the other, Rui, in midfield is the other. And they can dominate the game here, especially when they can pin Barcelona back, because Barcelona will have to defend at times and expect them, I think, to play a little bit more on the counter at times. Barcelona trying to find Messi in those transitional moments will be a danger, but I think Koulibaly is so crucial for Napoli in that moment where he can manage those kind of broken play moments and allow Napoli to get high up the pitch.
My concern is that if Napoli does want to take the initiative in the attack, that is going to open up a lot of space. And granted, they do have Koulibaly, but that's where Barcelona really has the most success. And especially if Griezmann's in the lineup and he can sit in the space between the last two lines, that's where Barcelona is really dangerous. I like the approach that Napoli had in the first leg. They didn't give Barcelona much of anything. Barcelona they had no answer. They just shifted the ball from side to side. And we've seen not only in that match, but every La Liga match where they've had to go up against an opponent that sits in the two banks of four, those deep blocks, they can't break them down. So, Suarez could maybe get on the end of a header. I think I'd like to see Vidal play for for Barcelona. I think with him switching off with Messi as they get into the attacking third, that does present an option in the box. But yeah, I mean, if I'm Napoli, like, I've got to feel pretty good knowing that Barcelona can't break down the low block.
I see your point, Scott, but
yeah.
keep in mind that Napoli have to score at least one goal to qualify. So because a 0-0 draw will qualify Barcelona. So maybe, yes, they're not going to start, completely all-out attack. But I do think that the identity that Gattuso was able to give Napoli, we're going to see that even at the Camp Nou. Also because, honestly, this Barcelona team is not as intimidating as it used to be. So Steve mentioned how great passers Napoli has. Fabian Ruiz in the midfield. By the way, a guy who knows very well how to play against Barcelona, given his past in La Liga. So I think that's gonna be key for Napoli, trying to keep their identity and make the game. To answer your question, Alex, Insigne is doubtful, but he's projected to start. If he doesn't, probably what's going to happen is Matteo Politano will play as a winger in the top three, along with Callejon and Mertens. Would you agree, Steve?
Yeah, probably. I'd say what Gattuso has done fantastically well is in the restart is rotate his players through games. Every week there's 2 or 3 changes where he's managing the workload of his players because he asks so much of them, and I think he's done brilliantly in that regard, and that's going to stand him in good stead for this game in terms of the freshness that he has available to him. I think you'll find that they'll counter press very quickly when they give the ball away. To Scott's point about Barcelona being dangerous on the counter, there's an argument to suggest that they're probably the best counter pressing side in Serie A. Them and Atalanta probably are right up there. And when they're not able to do that and they get broken through, they'll drop into that 4-1 block, and I think they'll be really difficult to break down in the Camp Nou. And the threat is obviously Messi, and if they can limit the space between lines, which Gattuso's done so well in both his playing career and now his time with Napoli, I think they'll come away with a result here, to be honest with you.
I'm going to be audacious enough to say that this will not be a 0-0 scoreline with these two teams. I hope I'm right. I say 2-1 Barca.
Fair enough.
I'll second that. 2-1 Barca. Messi has 15 minutes of brilliance and makes the difference.
Like always.
Or not.
Another Italian team that is going to have a lot of pressure is Juventus, right? Juventus are going to host Lyon at home. They're starting on a 1-0 aggregate for the French side. There's a couple of news in the Juventus starting lineup. First off, Miralem Pjanic, unlike Arthur Melo, has not refused to play. So right now he's set to start in the middle of Juventus's 3 midfielders. And Paulo Dybala is still questionable with a thigh injury, and we should see Higuain start on top with Bernardeschi and Ronaldo. Steve, Dybala, MVP of the Serie A season. He was just announced today. Him not starting, what does that mean for Juventus?
Does it also say on your stats there that Ronaldo's back from the beach, or is it?
He's back from his vacation with wife and kids.
Yeah, he's off the boat and onto the training pitch again. Brilliant, good to know. Yeah, I think Dybala's obviously been so crucial for Juventus this season that whether Sarri decides to stick with the 4-3-3 or flip back into a diamond and play him as the point of that diamond at number 10, I think is the key here. They've obviously got some pressure because they have to force a result being behind. They haven't been great in Serie A as we've discussed. I'm quite vocal about them being a pretty uninspiring champion so far this season. And they've got some real work to do here. Bernardeschi gives them something different down that right hand side. Perhaps like we've spoken about, they certainly sacrifice one of their forwards to accommodate the other two at times and their lack of defensive work. Bernardeschi's got the ability to defend well and get out of the pitch a little bit better than perhaps Douglas Costa's managed to do. So I think you'll find Bernardeschi starts the game. But yeah, I think they've been flat and disappointing. But hopefully, with all eyes on this game, they'll be able to turn a corner and perhaps prove prove me wrong that they are a champion side.
I agree. And Scott, you were talking off the air how Lyon is a team that tends to press high, but given the 1-0 lead, do you see them changing their approach at Juventus Stadium and be more conservative?
I think that would be to their benefit. I mean, you obviously never want to give Juventus too much space between the lines. And when Lyon does press high up the pitch, they do tend to become stretched vertically. So that is a major concern. If Dybala doesn't start, that certainly works to Lyon's benefit. So I think he would absolutely star if he was in that role between the lines in this matchup. But yeah, I mean, this is a side, if they're up for it, just like I showed in the first leg, they can play to Juve standard. But you do wonder, as the clock is winding down, are they going to make those mistakes that we saw a lot of during the previous season as they're trying to build out of the back? They do like to play a little bit more expansive when they attack. So, is it a matter of, do they stick to their philosophy, or do they totally adapt to the scoreline and this matchup? I'm not entirely sure which route they're going to go. I thought they'd be more conservative in the first leg, and they went all out in the attack, pressed very high up the pitch. So, we'll see. We'll see if they adapt. If they do sit back a little bit deeper, try to deny space, that is contrary to their philosophy. So, maybe that's not the best way to produce a fluid performance.
Memphis Depay back from injury. He wasn't able to feature in the first leg. Can Lyon use his speed, his athleticism, maybe to counterattack Juventus?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So if he is fit and healthy, he is their clear number one threat. And I think as they look to break out, they will look to target him to really advance the ball on the dribble. So, it's Juventus, obviously, they've got a deficit to make up, but I think they have enough talent and experience in their side to pull off the win here. I wouldn't be surprised if they win by 2 or 3 goals.
Do any of us see Lyon going through here? Because, historically, if you're just looking at the stats, they are pretty bad when they go play in Italy, in Europe. And Juventus, I think, are pretty good when they're down in the first leg to come back in the second leg. I think they did it last year with Ronaldo against Atletico Madrid, that famous win. They were all showing him, don't mess with Cristiano, right?
They've won 13 of the last 15, last 16 ties. So they're pretty good at this stage of the competition.
Right.
To be honest, if Lyon had been playing right up until the cut-off point of Serie A, the final games last week, then I'd suggest it would be a bit closer. But it's really so hard to tell when they haven't played for so long. Lyon, obviously, they would have been training all the way through in preparation for this one game. But it's a difficult one to come and win in Turin, where you haven't done a hell of a lot in the foreseeable past. So as much as it pains me, I'm probably going to say Juventus win this one. But they win it because they just have better players, not potentially because they're doing better. But the Ronaldo factor is going to be a massive thing, like it is for Barcelona with Messi. And we might find 1 or 2 of their other champions pull a performance out of the bag and nick a result. But I don't think it'll be a game that they run away with.
Right. And like you said, Steve, you can't really measure these French teams because the league has not been happening. The only match that Lyon's played was against PSG in a 0-0 tie in the Coupe de la Ligue, and they lost on PKs. But there's still not much you can really take away and learn from that, in my opinion. This is a whole different animal, the Champions League.
I find it, I call this a box of chocolates game. You just don't know what you're going to get until you bite into it. You don't, because Lyon has not played forever, right? I imagine they're kicking the ball around a bit. And Juventus, for the most part, basically took the last week of the season off, right? So I just don't know what we're going to get out of this. I do think it's highly entertaining. 538 does say that they're predicting that Lyon's got a 64% chance of winning this. So 2-1.
Really?
So, and they just FYI, they thought Man City has a 90% chance, and Barca's got an 81%. So they're used to giving props to former, to heavyweights. But in this one, they're giving Lyon the edge on it. And I'm looking forward to popping open up that box and get a taste and enjoy the match.
Chris, what I see is after the 70th minute, I see Lyon players starting to cramp up, starting to not track back Juventus's runners. And that's going to make a difference because Juventus just have the 90 minutes in their legs, having played until last week. So I think that's going to make a difference at the end. So don't be surprised if you see late goals by Juventus. That's my suggestion.
I'm disagreeing. I'm saying Lyon's parking the bus by then.
Yeah, I agree with you, Alex.
I don't think there's any way they need to track back because they're going to all be already all the way back. And if I'm Lyon right now, you got a chance to go through. And, 1-0 up against Juve is not bad. I would take that every time. But there's no chance I see them going on these crazy, attacks and leaving themselves exposed for a counter. There's no way. I think they're going to absolutely park the bus, maybe even 6 guys in a back line. Like, it could be really, really.
And you're going to have struggle to break teams down.
Yeah. Sorry?
Assuming the scoreline's in their favor.
True, assuming then the scoreline's in their favor. But, you have at times also seen Juve struggle to score, and it takes them, like, until the last, late in the second half, and they get frustrated, right?
Yeah, and that's what I was just going to say. They have struggled to break teams down over the last kind of 3 or 4 weeks. Their lack of runners in behind is a real issue for them. You've got Higuain, who's a really good kind of focal point at the top when he plays, but Dybala's constantly kind of off the front, dribbling at defenders, and when teams drop off and leave the space in front rather than behind, then it's difficult for them to break teams down. And if I won't ever mention penalties in Chris's presence again, but they do pretty well from penalties over the last kind of 3 or 4 games where Ronaldo saved them against Atalanta with 2 penalties, for example. But they have struggled over the last little while breaking teams down, and I think that could be a real issue here.
I was going to say, Serie A players have really learned how to hit the ball on the defender's arm. So watch Dybala or Ronaldo hit across VAR, late PKs, and Juventus go through.
Yeah, I'm just going to back Steve's earlier comment. I think Juventus is going to struggle because Ronaldo is still trying to get over his sunburn and trying to get the sand out of his shorts. So we'll see what happens in this game here.
There's no sand on a luxury yacht in the middle of the Mediterranean.
He burns.
The other game that will be played Saturday is Bayern Munich against Chelsea. It starts on a 3-0 aggregate for the Bundesliga champions. There's not much to say about this game. It seems like it's already been decided. Chelsea are also torn apart by injuries and suspensions. They will not be able to count on Alonso, Jorginho, Loftus-Cheek, Pulisic, and Azpilicueta. Guys, do you have anything to add about this game, or it's going to be just a walkthrough for a formality?
Bayern win. Move on.
Yeah,
wow, bold.
That's done and dusted. Done and dusted.
Done and dusted. Then we're going to move up to the Europa League. We're going to have games on Wednesday, August 5th, and Thursday, August 6th. Copenhagen will play against Istanbul Basaksehir. I hope I pronounced that correctly. They're starting on a 1-0 aggregate for the Turkish team. We're also going to have Shakhtar Donetsk against Wolfsburg. It's starting on a 2-1 aggregate for the Ukrainian side. We're going to have Inter play Getafe. That's going to be a single leg game. And then Man U will play Lask, starting on a 5-0 aggregate. On Thursday, Bayern Leverkusen will play Rangers, starting on a 3-1 aggregate for the German team. We're going to have Sevilla and Roma. That's the other single leg matchup. And we're going to have Basel play Eintracht Frankfurt. It's starting on a 3-0 aggregate for the Swiss side. So it should be a comfortable match for Basel. And then Wolverhampton are going to host Olympiacos. They're starting on a 1-1 aggregate on what was the only tie across all first leg matches. But since we have the Serie A team and the La Liga team, let's focus on the two matchup, the crossover. I'm talking about Inter against Getafe and Sevilla against Roma. What do you guys have about Sevilla, guys?
Sevilla has been doing very well. You know, they came in fourth in La Liga, and arguably, I mean, not arguably, they could have definitely come in third. They almost beat out Atletico Madrid for that spot. And let's not forget, they have been the Europa Kings. I think they won 3 years in a row, if I'm not mistaken, from 2013 to 16. You know, they're coming in with a ton of momentum. Lopetegui has guided the club again to this fourth place, and they've secured Champions League. They're incredible out wide. Jesus Navas ranks first in crosses. Banega has been exceptional. He's second in average passes to the final third per 90. Defensively, just a solid team. I think they're third in goals conceded in La Liga. But at the same time, and I'm sure you guys will argue for Roma. Roma have been in good form too, right? In these last few games, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't they beat Juve at the end? Although that doesn't really count. Juve was already champions. But I expect it to be a pretty good game.
Yeah, they were. They beat Juve last time out. They've actually done pretty well since the restart. They've played 12, won 8, drawn 1 and lost 3, 25 points since the restart. So they've been a pretty good team to watch. They've gone under the radar a little bit, among others in that kind of chasing pack for Juventus. But I think they've got a manager in Fonseca who's very tactically astute. He manages his group really well. He's able to flick between a back three and a back four, depending on the opposition, without losing too much of the way he wants his team to play. I think he certainly has games where he's more counter-attack based when needed, and they did that well against Juventus. But he's also in a position where he can set his team up to dominate the ball in games as well. So I think they're a young side with a lot of potential, and whether they've got enough to get over a seasoned Sevilla side is debatable. But I think they have a good chance in a one-off game here.
Steve, you're Paulo Fonseca. Do you opt for a 3 in the back or 4 in the back against Sevilla?
Well, that's a good question. I think to be honest, he probably stays with a 3. Purely because I don't think he believes he has enough quality with 2 centre backs to survive against better teams. You know, I mentioned the other day, Smalling isn't the long-term future of the back three. I don't think in this side, and Fazio has his moments as well. So I think they need an extra one in there to help them, and it also helps them progress the ball as well against high-pressing teams like Sevilla will be as well. So. Expecting to play with 3, and then the makeup of the midfield from there, whether he plays with more of a front 2 or maybe a 1 at the top and 2 number 10s. I think that's going to be the interesting part of the.
Yeah, right now it should be 2 number 10s with Zaniolo and Mkhitaryan underneath Dzeko.
Yeah, and I think the Dzeko factor is really important for them as well. You know, we've spoken before about him being a very much a fixed target for them to hit on the counter-attack, and how important he is in that counter-attacking moment to bring other players into space and running into open space. So, yeah, he'll be a danger. And then the Zaniolo coming back in, I think he's been excellent since his return from his knee injury, and his combination with Mkhitaryan is a real danger for Sevilla.
Yeah, looking at the Sevilla side, they do like to control the wings. That's typically where you'll see the progression through Navas and Reguilón on the left-hand side. And this is a very cross-heavy team as well. So I think the 3 in the back does serve Roma well. They will have to prepare to defend against Sevilla's barrage of crosses. But yeah, if you can have that wing-back tracking back, giving a little bit of safety to that back 3, I think that does benefit Roma. The one thing I will say for Sevilla is that not only do they have a lot of quality in their side, but when you look at their matchups over the course of the season, they adapt brilliantly to the opponent. So if they're playing Barcelona or Real Madrid, their ability to sit back, absorb pressure, and then counterattack is fantastic. And then on the flip side, when they're playing comparable to lower level team, They just dominate the opponents with their expansive attack and a really strong rest defense. So they are very difficult to break down. A lot of progression through the wings. At times they can get stuck, especially if they are having issues finding Luke de Jong in the box. But this is a side that could pose a problem to Fonseca and his Roma side, just in their ability to adapt to the game. They can do it on the fly just brilliantly.
I think if it is a back three for Roma, I distinctly remember Sevilla when they played Barca. One of their tactics was to always have a guy out wide. As soon as they'd won it, they'd almost hit these blind but well-driven longer balls across the field. And then that's where you get, at times Barca is a back three because their defensive mid drops in and then their center backs are there. And then one of the center backs has to get dragged out wide into an uncomfortable position against a guy like Munir. And then all of a sudden you're off to the races. I think that's something that Roma has to be very, very careful about, and that I think you should see a bunch of that, unless Sevilla think that they can outpossess them. But if Roma are controlling the possession, which again, I'm not sure about that, I think you will see these quick counter-attacking balls where whoever's in the midfield, as soon as they win it, they just play it to the other side, and they all go up very quickly, play it out wide, and then, like you said, Scott, those crosses will come in pretty fast. And they're very effective at it.
About those quick forward passes, Alex, I look forward to seeing Suso, by the way, former Serie A player, on that right side matching up against Kolarov, because right now the possible lineups, they're saying that Kolarov should start in the back line of three, and we know how much Kolarov likes to go forward. So if those passes happen quickly, I can see Sevilla finding a lot of space on the right flank.
Yeah, it's interesting with Kolarov because he's so good going forward. I'm not sure. Would you guys play him in this game in the back three on the left against a guy like Suso? Because they could definitely expose him.
No, I think he probably slots into a back four at left back, but I don't see him playing left hand side of a back three. Probably as a wing back, maybe. I don't know what Daniele's looking formation wise at there, but I think he probably slides in as a left back or a wing back rather than a centre back.
The left wing. I think the key here would be a left wing back, because if he's a left wing back, he can absolutely track back and take care of that ball. It's just about recognition for the wing backs to be very aware that as soon as they lose the ball, there's this key transition where you have to absolutely just find your man, sprint back into position, and then he could probably take those balls off his chest and go the other way. But there's this key transition phase of recognition of, we just lost the ball, get connected with my back line. And I think Roma will have success with their wing backs if they can do that to deal with that Sevilla strength in the wide spots.
Yeah, the reason why probably I see Kolarov listed as one of the back three is maybe because Roma has had some injuries and trouble with their center backs. I remember Brian Cristante, who's a midfielder, playing in the middle of the back three because of the trouble that Fonseca had to deal with defensively. He's also an experienced player, so I wouldn't mind him featuring there. But Alex, to answer your question, I will definitely play Kolarov just because of his set pieces skills. They just can make a difference. His serving as well as his strike on free kick, as well as he takes penalty kicks for Roma when Veretout is not on. So definitely a key player. Another crossover match will be Inter against Getafe. Inter will play with Conte's typical backline of three. We are expected to see all of Sanchez, Lukaku, and Martinez playing on top, with Sanchez probably roaming underneath them. And in Inter's backline, there should be Diego Godin. Alex, Godin is a player who knows how to play against Spanish team.
Yeah, but it's a little different here. I mean, Scott knows a lot about this Getafe side, but Getafe is not that type of team that just wants to play. I think they're ranked one of the worst in terms of passes completed per 90. They rely a lot on these long balls and sitting back and being a very physical team. Right, Scott?
Oh, yeah, definitely. In fact, in the last Europa League match for Getafe. They were serenaded by the Ajax fans with chants of, you guys suck. So they will try to initiate through defense. They have no intention of dominating through possession. They're going to make Inter have the ball. They're going to force Inter to make mistakes, and they are going to take their chances. So, I mean, like Alex was saying, they rated last in La Liga in like passes per 90, pass completion percentage. So they're going to play direct. Everything will be long. They have two guys up top in their 4-4-2. In the midfield, they do like to play very narrow. And when you look at this side, they're narrow not only in defense but in attack too. So they're going to try and hit the balls to the high forwards. At times they make some nice decoy runs off of each other to open up some spaces. But everything will be in 2 to 3 channels.
So to answer your question, Daniele, Godin will definitely be aware of that with all his experience with Atletico. But I don't think he'll be particularly concerned because the balls that will be coming up, he's very good in the air. So he should deal with that, have cover behind him. It's just going to be more of a dogfight, I think. This is a type of game that could be pretty boring matchup for the neutral. I don't know, Chris, what you think about that, but I don't know. I could be completely wrong, but I do see Inter just much superior in quality. But Getafe, to be fair, they've caused some trouble this year in La Liga to the teams that have superior quality technically. So I don't know. It could be interesting.
And Alex, Godin is also next to 2 solid defenders. One is Bastoni. The other one is De Vrij, who just won the Serie A Defender of the Year. Steve, I wanted to ask you, what should we expect the same kind of approach by Conte's team?
Yeah, no different to the way that they've played since the restart. They've been excellent in the little kind of window since Serie A began again. They'll play into Lukaku's feet in their own kind of style directly, and use him as such a dangerous focal point to bring other players into the game. I think, as Scott's saying there, you'll get the Getafe deeper, so there won't be many transitional moments for them to break into where they are so dangerous when they've kind of picked off the opposition and counter forwards quickly. So it's Scott saying that there's going to be less of those moments as Getafe drop off and let Inter have the ball. Then I think Inter find a way to pick them apart. They're very dangerous in the wide areas when they can get their wing-backs hard at the pitch. If Getafe are going to defend narrow, then Inter have got no problem going round an opposition. Into Young on one side, who was excellent in the last game against Atalanta, for example, scored a really good goal coming in from the wide spaces. So it may be dull to the people expecting goals, but it sounds like a really interesting tactical battle, this one, and one that I'll certainly be tuning in for.
So Scott, I'm curious.
I want to remind everybody that Getafe only won one match during post-COVID, so they kind of lost their mojo. They were really going well, and I just they got 4 or 5 ties, but you can't tie your way to a win in the end. So I feel that this is going to be one of those games where I might end up cleaning the kitchen and focusing on the previous game, the Roma-Sevilla game, which I think is a coin toss. This game here, I feel that Inter's going to figure out. It's going to be a street brawl of a game, and I think Inter is going to figure out a way to muscle it through. I like Lukaku's chances in a street brawl because in really tight spaces he can find a way to get the ball in there. So I think this one's going to be kind of a 2-1, 3-1 finish for me. So.
I'm just looking at the kind of the Inter stats since the restart. They played 13. They won 8 of those 13 games. And I guess if you're likening Getafe to somebody in Serie A, you'd probably be looking at someone like a Sampdoria maybe, or even a Torino, a team that are going to play kind of a little bit of a lower block and defend quite narrow. Well, Inter beat Torino 3-1. They beat Sampdoria 2-1 in those type of games. So Conte will not change a hell of a lot in terms of the way he does things, but he'll certainly use the ability to play round an opposition and then get runners going beyond the ball. I mean, if Daniele's saying that Sanchez is going to play and he roams around, then I think you'll find a lot more runners going beyond the ball than perhaps if Eriksen plays, where he likes to link up and join in with Lukaku. So it'll be interesting to see the dynamic there with Martinez and Lukaku kind of roaming around and getting beyond Lukaku and trying to cause problems to the Getafe back four.
So the thing with this Getafe team, even though they are very compact when they defend, they're going to chase you all the way up the field. They will not sit back. That's just not in their identity. So they will use those two forwards up top to try and funnel play to one wing or the other. But man, once they get you there, like get ready, like put on your boxing gloves. It's time to brawl. These guys are coming after you. So as compact as they are, when especially when they're in the attacking half of even the middle third of the pitch, there's not necessarily that outlet to a guy like Lukaku. But I think for Inter, this is where those wing backs really come in handy. So with Getafe typically on one vertical half of the field, I mean, there's loads of space for that last Juventus player, the last Inter player on the wings, or even in the far half space to really progress the ball. So I think if Inter, if Conte can get aside to kind of play into the Getafe press, get them in onto that one of the two wings, draw them in, because they will overload. They are an ultra aggressive side. You can definitely play around them.
So Scott, let me understand better this Getafe team. So if you're Inter, what you would do is you would kind of play the ball, with your back line to try to attract them, because you're saying that they're moving up with a compact block. And then what can make a difference is maybe an unpredictable ball, first time hit over the top for fast strikers like Lautaro and Sanchez. Is that what you're saying?
I don't necessarily think over the top will work. They are pretty conservative at the back line. Everything in front of the back line is ultra chaotic. For them, it's structured chaos. We'll say that. So all six of the midfielders and forwards will commit to the press. And once they get you into the wings, there's just very little space to progress there. And realistically, you don't necessarily have the time to pick out that high target, or you're playing behind the line. If you do, they're pretty well set to play to defend there anyway. But I think with this Getafe team, since they're vertically compact, there are opportunities to progress on the far side of the pitch. So you play that switch into the wing backs. You should be able to pick up 20, 30 yards at a time, and just gradually chip away, get them into that low block. Let Lukaku's individual superior quality really have at this back line. But yeah, Inter really has to prepare for this aggressive press.
It's really interesting. One of the keys to Conte's kind of possessional moments, probably everywhere that he's been to this point, is something that I guess I'll term a up, back and through situation, where they'll play beyond the line into the feet of, say, Lukaku, who will set the ball to somebody underneath him. So you get the up and then the back and then the through pass with runners going beyond the ball. He uses it a lot to get beyond pressure or obviously attract pressure to take balls to the weak side. So I think you can expect to see him use that a lot in this game, as like you're talking about there, Scott, the pressure coming in large quantities in certain areas of the pitch. I think if they use the wing back, for example, ball into the wing back's feet that's set back to a midfielder underneath, and then the ball goes back into the next line in the up, back and through moment, I think you'll find if they can be successful with that, and it sounds like they'll get a lot of joy against this Getafe team who want to kind of trap you in one area. So I think it'll be an interesting one for the hipsters, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I want to repeat, they've won one in the last 11 games. You look at the sports book, and you put down $100, and if Getafe wins, you get 425 back. So I think the sports bettors are with Inter on this one here, and I think Inter's going to figure out a way, whether it's muscling through the middle with Lukaku, or speed on the flanks they've got a nice game. They got some good mojo. They finished super strong. They got it going on. So, and I'm not slagging Getafe. I mean, they've had an amazing season, right? If you look at their 50 some odd million euro payroll, they're the second lowest of what they paid per point behind Granada. So they've had an amazing season. But I just think that when you're going to go against a smoking hot Inter, it's going to be lights out.
To finish off on this matchup, I think what Steve says about this up back through play is crucial against a team like Getafe, and even more with the third man runs. So up back through, the third man running already knows it's happening once the entry ball has been played to a Lukaku. And I think that third man run needs to be super aggressive, because even if that ball, doesn't really come off, it only needs to come off once or twice to score. But if it doesn't come off, I don't think Inter should be too worried about Getafe picking that pass out and then being in possession, because they're not that threatening in possession. They're more threatening maybe on a counter or a set piece, right, Scott? So I think it's fine. Go hard on the third man run. And if they do pick it out, you should continue to pin them back. That'll create more gaps in between the midfield and the defensive line of Getafe. And then Inter can find more success in possession. But I think Inter is pretty well set to win this match.
Yeah, I mean, especially if they can be safe in possession, make sure that they have at least numerical equality, if not superiority in the build-up. They can deny that opportunity for Getafe to attack with those 6 players rushing forward, because that's really where they get their goals. So they get that high to middle turnover or recovery, and then now all of a sudden you have 6 players in that same part of the field running at your back line. But I think if Inter can be wary of that in possession, especially in the build-up, and then utilize the wings, especially like you guys are saying, use that third man runner. I think in the wide areas would probably be the easiest to connect. This is a Getafe team that should wither. But that said, this is probably not the side you want to have one matchup against, one game. It's like having Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. That's the nightmare draw for every team, because you never want to play that side with just 2 matches.
Right. I'm not sure Sam would agree with you that Atletico Madrid is the same as Getafe, but I take your point. So
shout out Sam.
Well, thank you guys for the insights. I'm very excited that I will now be able to enjoy these games with a better educated soccer mind or football mind, wherever you are, whichever way you call the game. Thank you guys, and please enjoy Europa League and Champions League, and we'll see you next time. Arrivederci.